Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm continuing my black horse series with this vignette of a rearing horse done in a loose and messy style. Let's have a look at how I did it. If you've been watching my previous videos, and I'm going to put the links in the end screen and in the description if you want to check those out. The previous drawings were horizontal. Here I opted for a vertical orientation because we're going to have a rearing horse, and vertical will be better for this. So I'm doing a sketch with my trusty Staedtler HB pencil that I normally do most of my sketches with, and I placed the horse roughly in the middle. We're going to have a little bit of background in charcoal. It's going to be a little bit messy, but I'm going to be focusing on the black horse. So here I'm pretty much finishing the figure of the horse, and I'm also going to be adding some flying mane here. I kind of want it to be flying a little bit to one side and the other, like maybe the wind is blowing from left to right. And I went over my sketch with a charcoal pencil rather, and then I covered everything with vine charcoal. And now when I start blending, hopefully that those lines that I created with charcoal pencil will still be visible. So I kind of did my sketch in two stages, first with a graphite pencil to make sure that I got the shape right, and then with a charcoal pencil to make sure that those lines don't disappear once I cover them with vine charcoal. And now I'm blending vine charcoal that I covered the paper with. I don't really care if it's blended too evenly. All I want is to have a little bit of mid-tone and a little bit of background. But soon I will be moving on to the horse, which is my main subject here. So as usual, I'm using woodless charcoal pencils, a medium one and a soft one. And I'm going to be doing most of the drawing with a medium charcoal pencil. But here and there I'm also going to be using the soft one for some of the darkest areas on the horse. I can either start with a soft charcoal pencil immediately and drawing some of these darkest areas like I did on the ear, or I can just work with a medium charcoal pencil and then add a little bit of soft charcoal pencil on top of that later, just to give myself a greater range of value. So like I said, I want to have some mane here flying all around and mostly from left to right. This is not going to be a super detailed drawing. I'm kind of hoping that what will capture the attention of the viewer is the movement. Because it's a beautiful muscular animal. And now I'm just doing a little bit of shading, just some initial shading where I'm making some initial suggestions of the horse's musculature and drawing in some of these darker areas. Now notice that the belly is going to be darker because it's facing away from the light source, and the part towards the rear legs and on the butt is also going to be very dark, but the very lower edge of the belly is going to be slightly lighter because we're going to have some reflected light coming from the other side. So it doesn't matter what you're shading or what you're drawing, the same rules apply as when you're drawing simple objects. Whether you're drawing a sphere or some other simple object, you can apply the same rules when you're drawing the horse's midsection or the head or any other part of the body. You can also see that I'm doing a little bit of blending with tortillon. And with tortillons, a good thing is that you can roll them into a fine tip or a slightly larger tip, depending on what you need for blending. The ones with a finer, thinner tip can also be used for some blending where you need more accuracy and precision. And they can also be used for drawing when they have a bit of charcoal on them. I'm also pulling some highlights on the horse's head, like around the nostrils and the eyes, and adding a little bit more value on the lower part of the head, just under the neck. And at one point I just sort of felt like the entire figure needed a little bit more value, so I covered it with the additional amount of charcoal, and now it looks a little bit messy and it has a weird texture in some places, but I'm going to be blending everything in and then refining the shape by adding some areas of darker and lighter value. But here I'm trying to refine the appearance of that mane a little bit, so that it has a few highlights here and there, so that it kind of stands out from the rest of the body and the neck, so that we can feel like it's a separate object. And now I'm doing a little bit more shading on the neck. I'm pretty happy with the way those wrinkles between the neck and the head came out, but I need to do some more shading on the neck. But here I'm using my pencil eraser to pull some highlights, as you can see, on the head. And I even used a little bit of black colored pencil to clean up some of the edges. Even though the drawing is kind of messy, I'm still going to have to create clean edges between the horse and the background. So I'm shading the area around the shoulders and chest, and for some reason I kept postponing drawing the legs. I don't know why, but I kind of focused on drawing the body first. And I also like the shape of the tail here and the way the hair is flying all around because of the horse's sudden and violent movement. So you can see that the body is starting to look a little bit better. That weird texture and those lines have largely disappeared, and muscles and body parts are starting to show up nicely, and it's starting to look more like the body of a real horse. So I'm putting in some additional details and refining the appearance of the horse, and now I finally decided to move on to the legs, and I'm doing the front legs first. They are smaller than the rest of the body, obviously, but I will still need to shade them and try to capture the proper musculature of the horse, even though I'm not an expert on horses' anatomy, but I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna do my best to shade it in a realistic manner, so that even the people who understand the horse's anatomy a little bit better than I do can say that it's a pretty good drawing. And I'm using a tortillon to blend in some of these finer areas which require a little bit more precision. And again, I used a black colored pencil to refine some of the edges and maybe add a little bit of texture in certain areas, but I generally did try to do most of the work with charcoal pencils. Here some of those ribs are visible, so I'm going to try to capture that as well. As for my blending tools, I'm using a number of different brushes, but here, as you can see, I'm using my pencil eraser to really clean up some of the lighter portions of the horse's body to try to make those highlights stand out, because the horse's hair is glistening and it's kind of creating areas of high contrast. So I need a pretty good range of value there. I need some very light areas that'll stand against the darkest areas on the horse. And once I spray everything with a fixative, obviously everything is going to become a little bit darker, but that's not a problem because I kind of expect that to happen. So now I'm refining the appearance of those ribs a little bit and working a little bit on the midsection, the middle part of the body. And we have a couple of nice highlights here around the buttocks and the thighs as well. So I always keep stressing how a range of value is important. Well, if you don't have it, you can't really show the shape of the horse's body. If I just covered everything with charcoal, it would look black and flat, like there's nothing going on there, like there are no shapes. But this way, when you have a range between those darker and lighter values, you can feel like some parts of the body are kind of stand out and are protruded above the others, while the others are in the shadow. The other hind leg here is going to be kind of in the shadow a little bit darker than the other one. I am not going to draw the legs all the way. I'm going to put some suggestions of dirt and grass there, and I'm putting in some of these dots to suggest that the horse is lifting up a little bit of dirt as it's rearing and stamping its feet, or hooves rather. And I'm going to have a little bit of shadow under it. So since I did most of the work that I wanted to do on the horse, I am now focusing on the background a little bit. I'm going to use this charcoal powder created by sharpening to create the effect of dirt and dust flying around. I think it will be a nice effect. It's kind of overly dramatic. It almost looks like an explosion, but that's what I was going for anyway. I want my background to emphasize the movement as well, to add to it and make it even more interesting and dramatic. And now I'm pulling some highlights on the hind legs using a pencil eraser, just to make sure that I just want to separate those hind legs so that we can see where the edge is. And I'm drawing in some suggestions of blades of grass here, nothing too detailed and fancy. I'm going to soften that with a brush and blend it a little bit. And maybe I could also add some clouds in the background. Again, nothing too elaborate and detailed, just a few suggestions of clouds in the back, so that there is a sky behind the horse. And I'm going over some of the edges just to make them a little bit cleaner and a little bit lighter with my pencil eraser. I also used a little bit of kneaded eraser for those clouds as well, but now I'm mostly using the pencil eraser. And I'm going to use a tortillon to draw some more of that dirt which is flying around. Because I want some of these dots to be a little bit lighter than others, so I did some of them with a charcoal pencil and the others with a tortillon. So I want to make it look like this dirt and those bits of dirt are flying around. And I think that's pretty much it. I just feel like I need to add a little more shading to some parts of the horse, but the drawing is pretty much done. Here, as you can see, I removed the tape and the drawing was sprayed with a fixative. And there's my signature. It's a little bit crooked, but it's not a big deal. I'm going to move it around a little bit and zoom in so that you can see some more of the detail, although it's not a super detailed drawing. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Check out my other horse drawing videos. And if you like other kinds of drawings, I have those as well. I like to draw all kinds of things. So make sure you check out my other videos. Thank you for watching, and bye.